Airfield and terminal are the two biggest sources of revenue. This airport has an economic impact of over $1 billion to this community. When you purchase an airline ticket and you fly out of Aspen, you will pay to Aspen $4.50 for your leg out of our airport. The other big piece that we have are capital improvements and capital expenses. The airport paid for this equipment using revenue generated at the airport. Very impressive piece of equipment, really key to us keeping the airport safe and operational when the weather is bad. You know, I think the thing that a lot of people don't realize about the airport is that while we are a department of Pitkin County, we are financially self-sufficient from Pitkin County in that, as an enterprise fund, all of the revenue that it takes to pay for the operation of the airport is generated here on the airport. So let's talk a little bit about revenue and where the money comes from that it takes to run the airport. We really get a couple of big sources from that. Airfield and terminal are the two biggest sources of revenue. Our biggest single source of revenue on the airport is airline revenues. That includes rent from the terminal, landing fees, and all of those kinds of things. Rental cars, huge piece of revenue for the airport, almost 26% of our total revenue for 2011. When somebody rents a car, the airport gets a percentage of the revenue in addition to rent and all of those kinds of things. General aviation revenues, another big piece. A lot of folks maybe have the misperception that somehow general aviation as a particular user group gets a free ride or doesn't pay their fair share. Not true. General aviation revenues, landing fees, fuel flowage fees, all contribute to the operation of the airport. It's our third biggest piece of revenue at the airport. Parking at the airport, another big source of revenue. We generate about $500,000 in revenue from our public parking at the airport. We get a lot of requests. Why can't it be free? Well, unlike a lot of airports, our airport's right in town, right next to town, where parking is relatively limited. If we were to allow free parking, it would be mayhem. We would have no spaces for people to park that were coming here to use the airport. So unfortunately, we just don't have that luxury by virtue of our location. From an airfield perspective, a couple of the big pieces of revenue that we receive are landing fee revenues and flowage fees. Every gallon of fuel that's sold on the airport is pumped by our fixed base operator, Atlantic Aviation, and they sell fuel to both general aviation aircraft and the commercial aircraft. We get 12 cents a gallon. We sell on average about 4 million gallons a year of fuel, and so that revenue comes back to the airport, and then we use it to help maintain the airfield. We use it to do snow removal. We use it to pay our staff that does airfield inspections. Landing fee revenue, as aircraft use our airport, they use the runway, they use the taxiways, and the way we generate revenue to pay for the expenses of maintaining that is through landing fees. Both general aviation and the commercial air carriers here pay a landing fee that generates almost $2 million a year of that $8 million to help us offset the cost of operating the airfield side. And there's a couple of distinct components with expenses at the airport. There's the operating expenses, which we've talked a little bit about, that include maintaining the terminal building, maintaining the airfield, doing snow removal, mowing the grass, replacing light bulbs, all of those kinds of operating expenses. But the other big piece that we have are capital improvements and capital expenses. That can range from everything from repaving the runway, like we did in 2007, to purchasing a piece of snow removal equipment. And we have a lot of different sources available to us to help us fund those capital improvements. One of the biggest that we get every year is from the Federal Aviation Administration in the form of what are called Airport Improvement Program grants. And by virtue of our commercial airline service, we annually receive almost $2 million a year of entitlement grant monies that we get by virtue of that service. That's money that we then use and match it with local money to purchase snow removal equipment or to repave a runway or to make improvements to the parking apron and things like that. The one thing that's really cool, I think that a lot of people may not know about those FAA grants, those Federal Aviation Administration grants, is that those grants have revenue that's derived from taxes that you pay as a traveler when you fly on a general aviation aircraft or an airliner. They don't come from your April 15th income taxes that you pay to the IRS. Those come from ticket taxes when you buy an airline ticket. They come from fuel taxes if you own an aircraft and buy fuel. That money then goes into a federal trust fund that is then doled back out to airports to help pay for those capital improvements. So it's really a great system of user-funded capital improvements, and we have leveraged that to great success at our airport to do things like our upcoming runway extension, which will be funded almost 85% through federal airport improvement program grants. Some of our other opportunities for revenue come from other sources as well. Another significant source on the airport is what we refer to as a passenger facility charge, or a PFC. When you purchase an airline ticket and you fly out of Aspen, you will pay to Aspen $4.50 for your leg out of our airport. And that money comes back to us from the airlines each year to help us fund capital improvements. And on average, the airport garners between $800,000 and $900,000 a year in passenger facility charge revenue. And we've used those monies historically to buy snow removal equipment, to pay for matching, our local match on a federal airport improvement program grant. It's another tremendous source of revenue, again, that's generated by the users of this airport that comes right back to their own airport. It's really a great program. Here's a great example of how we have leveraged equipment to help us be more efficient, both from a staff perspective and from a financial perspective. This is a really interesting looking piece of equipment we've got going here. This is a runway light plow, and on the edge of the runway here in Aspen, we have over 200 runway light fixtures. They sit on a post that's about 18 inches tall, and those lights have to be visible to the pilots so that they can see the runway to land at night. Problem is, when you get several hundred inches of snow a year, you have to keep the lights clean. This piece of equipment, which attaches to the tractor we use for mowing in the summertime, comes through, and the runway light goes through the plow, through the brooms, comes out clean on the other side, and our staff can now do the job of cleaning runway lights in the course of just a few hours as opposed to the course of a few days. Hugely efficient from an operational standpoint, hugely efficient from a financial standpoint. This is our aircraft rescue firefighting vehicle that we use for emergency response, and this brand new state-of-the-art truck is a perfect example of how we use capital improvement funds to acquire better equipment for our airport. We purchased this vehicle a year and a half ago using passenger facility charge revenue. It was about an $850,000 vehicle. All of that revenue came from the passenger facility charge revenue that passengers in Aspen paid at Aspen when they flew out of here. We turned around, got that money back from the airlines, used it to buy this great truck. No cost to the general community, no taxpayer money expended, all local user fees paid for this vehicle. The Colorado Division of Aeronautics also provides us with a great source of capital revenue in the form of aeronautics grants. And typically we've been the benefactor of anywhere between $200,000 and $450,000 a year in state grant revenue that we again have used for a multitude of projects. I think one of the things that a lot of people maybe are not aware of or don't necessarily think of is what the economic impact of this airport is to this community. You know, we provide a conduit for over 250,000 visitors to come in and out of our community every year. And those are people that are coming here and they're spending money and they're staying in hotels and they're using local businesses and contributing to our sales tax base. Those are people that are using the airport to get here rather than Highway 82 or Interstate 70, and individual vehicles are coming on commercial aircraft, and that's really great for us. With direct and indirect and induced impacts, this airport has an economic impact of over $1 billion to this community. Everything from employment to sales tax to purchases of aircraft to the spending that people do when they come here into town. It's really very tremendous. And we learned a couple of other interesting things. The commercial visitors that come here on average are spending over $2,600 a visit when they come here on an airplane. And so it's just a tremendous impact this airport has positively to the economy of our valley, and we think we're a great contributor. So I hope this has given you a better understanding of how the Aspen Pitkin County Airport functions as a financially sustainable and completely self-sufficient department of the rest of Pitkin County. The good news is that financial sustainability and our self-sufficiency gives us the resources to do things that the community expects of this airport.